experimentation.
You work for a credit card company.
Let's say...
You're in charge of policy.
For example.
And okay, you'd rather be a movie star or a footballer or an AIDS worker in Sudan, but you aren't. And you're happy with. You've done well to get this far. You do a job, you do it well, you get on with it.
You're a good person.
Not perfect.
No one's perfect.
You hate it when your friends do well.
You feel terrible for feeling like that.
An ordinary fucking human fucking being.
So let's not judge.
You have ideas, for Christ's sake. You think. You have an imagination.
You want to do well for your family.
There are children.
One of each.
A girl of 3 and her 18-month-old brother.
A 3-year-old girl who looks just like your partner. And it's funny because she's even beginning to act a little bit like her. And that is funny to see a tiny version of someone you know so well growing.
You argue about money.
But you also argue about telly and childcare.
And then one day, you have this idea.
Yes, you have this idea.
I sometimes fantasize about when I become an alcoholic, hiding bottles, unable to do anything without a drink. And people talking about me and saying, it's such a shame. She's so talented. And being admitted to a treatment centre where I fight against them with all my might, before eventually succumbing to the inevitable logic of a 12-step program, before finally telling my story of triumph over degradation. But, to be honest, if I drink more than 1 bottle of wine, I get sick.
You happen to notice that a large amount of people you turn down for credit get their credit from other sources.
Not so reputable sources.
But these days, you can always get credit.
And they pay incredibly high rates of interest.
You've heard as much as an annual interest repayment of 95%, 100%.
You've heard of as high as 160%.
Do you wonder about offering?
Not the package they've applied for.
No.
I'm sorry if this is boring, but it's actually quite exciting.
But a different sort of credit package for people whose credit is too bad for the one they've applied for.
See?
And of course, because their credit's bad, they pay more money.
Which makes sense.
Less actually than they pay the less reputable sources. So you're sort of doing them a favour.
Business, this is how business works.
And you look at the amounts to be made on their interest repayments.
And you look at the amount to be lost on the people who default.
And you take the first sum away from the second sum and you realise the difference is a sizable chunk of cash.
A very sizable chunk of profit for your company and its shareholders.
And your job is to make profit for your company and its shareholders. That's what having shareholders is all about. That's the point of it.
And you start to realise that this idea is one of those ideas. You know, one of those ideas that come along, one of those great ideas. And you start to think that maybe this great idea, and this may be silly, that this great idea has been given to you from a higher source.
And you know that this is your chance. The world is holding out its hand and there's some kind of alignment going on, a portal or something, you know, only lasts for seconds. Alright, maybe not, but it feels that way. It feels...
And you know that someone else is bound to have this idea any day now. Ideas like this, they don't hang around for long.
And the question you have to ask is, are you the person who sat on the sidelines?
Are you the person who watched?
The question you have to ask is simple.
What kind of a person are you?
Last week, I was standing in front of this window, staring at this bag that I couldn't afford. It was a really nice bag. It was, and I felt like I couldn't move. I mean, physically, I couldn't move. I couldn't leave the spot because of the bag and all the hair was standing up on the back of my neck. I felt terrible because I was getting so emotional about a fucking bag. And meanwhile, there's still no sign of a two-state solution in the Middle East. And it suddenly dawned on me that the bag was not designed to hold things, but to hold me. And it was like hearing for the first time. And I felt so elated at this discovery that I immediately went in and bought it because it no longer held power over me. And I felt brilliant for the rest of the day. But when I thought about it again that evening, it just seemed stupid. I cried.
It works beautifully.
Increased annual turnover of 35 million in the first year alone. It's attractive.
People are attracted to it.
And you made it. It's something you made.
And you're rewarded.
And you're promoted.
Pay upgrades, yes. And bonuses.
And the respect of people around you. And you begin to notice that when you're introduced to people, they already know who you are. And sometimes they raise an eyebrow and say, oh, in recognition before shaking your hand.
Which is nice.
That is nice.
And maybe you might start thinking about having a new child.
Maybe.
Things are good.
Things are really good.
I'm thinking about becoming a Buddhist because I am attracted to its philosophies of acceptance, of being in the moment, and of being on a journey, and its attraction to the universal. But I can't decide if it's the right thing to do because, on one hand, David Lynch is a Buddhist, but on the other, so is Richard Gere. I've also thought about becoming an evangelist Christian, a tramp, some form of terrorist or communist, lagos, anything that isn't me, I suppose.
But your mind might find itself wandering back to those other figures.
Yes.
To the second
The
sum.
defaulters.
Things are still good.
Oh yes, things are still good, but your mind might find itself wandering back to those figures in the second sum, and although you try not to think about it, your mind might start to think of those figures as
People.
because they are really.
You're not responsible.
No, of
but,
course.
I mean, we're all adults, for Christ's sake. You're not responsible, but...
You might think of these people.
And their hardship, and yes, that's a stupid word. Yes, that's something out of the 19th century, but it keeps coming back into your head.
Hardship. It's stupid, but hardship.
And you might start to think that what one person does to another person is a thing, like a real thing, and that systems and numbers, the way we do those things, are in some ways not real, even though everything we've ever learnt has taught us to believe that they are real. You might now come to believe that in actual fact they aren't. And that the only thing that is real is that thing you've done to another human being. And strangely, you begin to feel alone. Separate.
And you might think of someone.
A woman.
A woman.
At odd moments.
When you're out with your friends, giving a presentation, making love to your partner.
The image of someone.
A woman.
Overwhelmed.
A woman.
Overwhelmed.
And no, it's not just the fault of, I mean, they are contributing factors.
Maybe this woman never felt.
As one with.
But I mean, who fucking does?
So you begin to see this woman again and again in greater clarity, like you know her.
Like you are her or something.
Not are her, but a part of her. I mean, are we a part of each other? Aren't we a part of?
And you begin to feel this woman becoming overwhelmed with life. And maybe just trying to fucking well fit in. I mean, isn't that what we're all? Aren't we all just trying to do what we think someone like us is supposed to be doing?
You might suddenly feel her panic.
Her confusion.
You might suddenly feel her panic and confusion overwhelming.
I'm staring at these forks, just standing there in the shop, staring at these forks in my hand, and praying for a sign, like one set of forks, like the squared off, three-pronged, brush steel ones, for example, are going to suddenly get heavier as a sign that I should put back the silver, curved, more weighty, more traditional Terence Malone forks. But then I thought, would the forks getting heavy be a sign that I should put them back? Or that I should keep them? And sweat broke out on my forehead. I felt prickles in my armpits, and I felt the cold that sat around my heart like a blanket of oil begin to creep out and expand into the rest of my body. And I thought, this is it! Here we go! Here we fucking go! And I don't remember the rest.
And you might see this woman on a ward.
Gone crazy in a shop of all things.
Crying, screaming.
Panicking, actually, real
And
terror.
Just take her to this ward.
Sections.
It's only a weekend, but
Just a weekend. You might see her in there for just a weekend, but
when her husband visits,
shocked.
he's shocked.
Not so much at her. She looks, I mean, she's unhappy, but
Embarrassed, if anything.
she's not too
But the people around her are, I mean, he
I
didn't
didn't
expect.
expect
dribbling.
And
and rocking.
He didn't
I
expect.
A ward.
He should have done, because they said she was an award, but he didn't expect.
He's frustrated.
He counts 13 different people that have seen his wife in that one weekend. She's telling the same story 13 different times. And maybe, whilst you're going about your daily business, getting a coffee,
Playing hide and seek with your little girl.
you're
Wanting to win.
doing these things, but the story's still running through your brain.
And you might imagine this man. You imagine him.
This teacher,
You imagine him.
he sits there in the living room.
He spreads out everything on the floor.
He's got a pad and a pen and a calculator they nick from work,
And
statements, bills, invoices even.
And that weekend, that very night, after having to leave his wife in that place, he's
Shocked.
again, he's shocked because he realises all the numbers, figures, pounds, and red letters are up to avoid.
A void in her that he should be filling.
And then he finds your great idea.
And then he finds your beautiful idea.
And he cries.
He cries from deep within his insides.
And he wonders how it ever got to this.
He resolves to get them through it.
I'm feeling much better.
He's going to get both of them through it.
I'm feeling great, actually.
He's going to get a new job.
Back in the real world.
He thinks he knows where he can get a new job that pays real money.
I'm not taking time off.
He's going to get a job that pays, get her back home, tell her how much he loves her, and start putting things right.
He loves her.
She loves
I
him.
love you.
You?
You!
You may no longer want a child.
You may no longer be able to look your partner in the face.
You may find that food no tastes the same.
Like
You may
plastic.
find that eating food is like putting plastic in your mouth.
And you might find yourself increasingly prone to dark moods.
And you might wonder how to get rid of this feeling.
And you might drink.
And you might sleep with strangers.
And you might buy stuff and buy stuff and buy
You
stuff.
may find that nothing works.
And you may have this terrible fear that...
And you may have this terrible fear
And you may have this terrible fear that every day, working or otherwise, will actually be like wading through blood.
You got my card.
Yes.
You know where to find me.
Yes.
It's up to you.
Right.
There's lots of ways we can take this. Lots of possibilities. Take this any way you want.
Right.
I'm not a fruit bat. You got my card.
Yes.
You can see, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
Not taking the piss.
No.
Not a cunt.
No.
Long as you don't treat me like a cunt. That's all I ask of anyone. You're waiting for someone. I'll go. Forgive me. But there's lots of ways we can take this. Have you given any thought to where you want to take this?
No.
You don't need to. That's my job. That's what I get my percentage for. Swallowing vomit! This place! Animals! Fucking animals! Have you given it any thought? You don't need to. This is filth. This is real dirt. You don't need to be in real dirt. Acting, modelling, singing, there's all sorts of ways.
What? Really?
All sorts of ways. Have you ever felt like you were meant for something better?
No.
They napalm this lot. Makes me sick! Get Bin Laden round it! You just need to know the options. I walk out there, I've got Kurds shitting on my doorstep. You are better than that. Have you thought much about TV?
No.
No. Of course you have. Everyone's thought about TV. Don't call me cunt! Anyway, you're waiting for someone. I'll go. I'll wade off through this crowd of diarrhea, the British public cunt. Have you thought about them shows?
Which shows?
Saturday night. Millions of viewers think. Debbie, think. But let me do the thinking. You see, there, you display your naivety, Debbie, but if people like you weren't naive, then people like me wouldn't exist. No! I'm not some sort of cunt! Yeah, I'm lonely, but fucking who, but no, this isn't that. My business, this is the way it works, you see? You strike.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand, Duffy?
I think so.
I want to show you something.
Okay.
Because I think that we've made a bond.
Thank you.
You're waiting for someone. I know, 1 minute. I want to show you something. It's a man with a cock in his mouth. You see?
Yeah, I don't really think...
Oh, absolutely.
I don't...
No.
It's
just putting it away, put it right fucking away. But you understand, it's my job to cover all bases. Lots of ways, Debbie, lots of fucking ways this can be taken. 600 quid plus expenses. But forget that. Look at that barman.
Wait.
Yeah. I see people like him